You said, Santosh, we have not even scratched the tip of the barrel. And then today at 65, we think it can double from here.
5 crore people investing in mutual funds, 50 crore people subscribing to Amazon Prime or Zomato and all that stuff. Come on here, just starting. Having a home was the first big marker.
How much is in mutual funds and how much is not in mutual funds?
People will be very disappointed with the non-mutual fund amount. It will be less than 5% on my portfolio.
With toddlers this age, chocolates, sugar, screen time.
Yeah, no screen time.
What are you seeing? No screen time at home?
Like, make mistakes. Make big mistakes. Make small mistakes. Make epic mistakes. But like, going the ring, I want to write a post. 5 mistakes to make.
This wealth creation journey has created as opportunities for people to live more secure, spend more freely, and I think also leave behind a legacy that they thought they couldn't. I had an 84-year-old lady who was trying to break money from a deposit and said, "You please invest this money for me." I said, "Do you think you're doing something so aggressive?" And she gave me a perspective that was really important for all of us to think. She said, "I am anyway not going to spend this money.
Yeah.
If I leave this money in the bank, it's by and large going to be limited to what I leave.
Yeah.
But if I invest it well, it will be far greater than what I'm investing so that my grandkids will at least fight over how much money they can take out of it," which means she knew how money's got the power to grow.
And it's also an interesting example, by the way, that someone who's 18 is not necessarily a conservative investor.
Oh, yeah, that's a big myth. Big myth.
So I met a Sardarji, lovely uncle, he was 80 plus in Chandigarh. And in one of my meets, he stood up and he asked me about one of the most aggressive products in our basket. Like, or is a momentum oriented, very aggressive mid-cap product. Traditional thing, 82-year-old investor. आपको तो FD में होना चाहिए. He said, "Madam, मैं आपको कुछ बातें बताता हूँ. मैं retire कर चुका. I am getting pension. Both my kids are abroad. They're doing extremely well. I have a fully paid up home. He said, my risk appetite, madam, is higher than yours."
Absolutely. He got it right.
I said, "Sir, that yeah." So he said, "आपको तो young बच्चे को पढ़ाना है, आपको तो ये है, आपको तो." I said, "Sir, बात तो सही है."
Correct.
So you learn a lot of things.
I think that try to use the cookie cutter approach for who should take risk and who should not take risk actually should come from the investor and their personal disposition.
In fact, it drives me crazy when media asks me, right, give us a recommended portfolio for a 20-year-old, 40-year-old, and 60-year-old. And I'm like, this is like that designer's point, right? No two brides are the same.
What are the milestones or maybe even the internal markers that you have for yourself to manage your own wealth? Because, it's so easy that people ask you so much, maybe generic or specific advice, but how do you make money for yourself work?
Yeah, so I went through a lot of kind of phases of personal wealth. I went through this entrepreneurship phase where literally everything we had was in the company and we had like 50,000 rupees a month as salaries. We're lucky when we could buy a Swift between me and Nalin, which is crazy, right? For working graduates. So we've seen that. So I think the first marker for us then when we sold the company was to build a set of corpus and also to build a home. So I guess it's a psychological Indian thing, but having a home was the first big marker for us. So that we did. I think the second marker which we've got through is, I don't like to use the word fire, but a certain amount of corpus.
For stability.
Yeah, for stability. So that wealth is not something that you struggle with. And I think a third marker is maybe more generational wealth you want to create. As I said, we don't sit and talk every day about targets. But I think, for instance, once we completed the purchase of a house, we were able to be a little more aggressive in terms of equity exposure with our investments. So like the post-house phase, if you call it phase 2, a little more aggressive with equities. Now that, we've kind of got the marker where the corpuses are decent, I'm experimenting a little in terms of giving back. So I never had unlisted investments. Did Shark Tank, had some unlisted ones. Actively looking at some private investments for women entrepreneurs. I do believe I have a responsibility to give back to that ecosystem. So now, freedom in other spaces has given me some freedom to do that. And who knows what else.
So then, I'm sure everybody like me is interested to get a peek into your portfolio about how much is in mutual funds and how much is not in mutual funds.
Oh, majority is in mutual funds.
Okay,
I mean,
because it's sometimes you meet
people will be very disappointed with the non-mutual fund amount. It will be less than 5% on my portfolio.
It's interesting because I did read an article that was covered by a daily about what all the senior people in mutual funds were doing. And what surprised me was one or two senior people in the mutual fund industry. I was surprised to note that the least amount of their wealth was in their own funds that they were managing. Right? It either was in real estate or could be in some private investments or XYZ. And some said, surprisingly, that their biggest investment as an equity fund manager was in fixed income. So you see that difference. So I think
we have a primary home, so I don't count that as investment. So that's there. And then everything else is mutual fund except 5%, which is these unlisted experiments. And I don't even call my unlisted things investments. They're investments, but they're also experiments. And then, of course, as employees, you'll have ESOP equivalent, but that's also that's not an investment.
Right.
So it's mutual funds.
The big story is that you are eating what you're cooking.
I'm eating what I'm cooking. I'm digesting it well. It tastes pretty good. I think 60-70% of that is Edelweiss Mutual Fund. So I'm cool. I see mutual funds here.
So that brings me to the last part of this set of questions, which is from not having wealth to now being a lot more financially stable, and also seeing your organization grow in AUM, generating wealth along the way, you having wealth, the organization growing to adding wealth. If today you were to go back in time, right, could be both personally and professionally, would you do something different if you're having the same knowledge and experience that you have today, let's say 15 years ago?
You will always do different things, but I don't like to question hindsight. I don't like to question the past decisions using the present context because the context was very different. And I always say journeys are special because of the mistakes that you've made on the way. So if I had to build a mutual fund business again from the beginning, I would build it very differently because I know a lot more. But that was not the reality for Edelweiss Mutual Fund.
Yeah. So I think you made a nice point there, because many of us live in regret that if I was younger, I would do it differently. And therefore, what we tend to do is then we try to push this down on the younger generation.
It's a very self-flagellating exercise.
Exactly. And another thing that we also could end up doing is that we try to be harsh with other people when we see them do different with their money, because we don't not letting them self-discover their journey. We're trying to say, you know what, that is wrong, this is right, I know better, so you follow me.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is by Neil Gaiman, which just says, make mistakes, make big mistakes, make small mistakes, make epic mistakes, but go in the ring and make mistakes.
I think social media has made this whole thing like 5 mistakes not to do, 10 mistakes not to do. If I were younger, these are the things I would do.
I want to write do you remember? I want to write a post, 5 mistakes to make.
Is there 5 mistakes that you want to tell us now?
Oh God, I can't think of 5 mistakes. I mean, so actually the
just
line,
make them, you're saying.
Yeah, because I didn't plan to make them. I made them. I don't call mistakes it's called a mistake because it was a misstep, right? It's not because I said, oh, I want to jump into a ditch. Then that's an error. It's a mistake because you didn't know.
Okay, without mistake, let me quickly ask you, maybe 5-10 words. And whatever first comes to your mind.
Okay.
If I say the word money, what is the first word that comes to mind?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
It's too long for an answer.
Okay. I have to be rapid and I have to fire even though you're not Karan Johar. Is it one word or multiple words?
Just one word. Money.
Money, purpose.
Okay. Mutual funds.
Say it.
And markets?
Up and down. Volatile.
Family?
Everything.
Home?
Where people are.
India?
Opportunity.
Future?
Bubbling.
And last, the present versus the future. What are you going to bet on?
Always the present. Always the present. As I'm getting older, I'm more about living the present. Although Rashesh has this whole bifocal thing about how you have to live one leg in the present and one in the future. But as I'm getting older, I'm learning to optimize more for the present.
Yeah, because there is this school of thought that says that uh, the people who live in the future are the ones that are making the most of life, because you're trying to seize the future. And there's another beautiful perspective that you said, that if you live today well, it'll automatically take care of the future.
And as long as you don't do stupid things, right? So I'm not going to spend 100% of my portfolio and not save anything. You don't do stupid. I also think people have become extremely binary in life, and life is honestly not lived here or here. It's somewhere.
That binary point brings me to another interesting part when you talk to clients and when you manage money. There's a big difference between instant gratification versus delayed gratification.
Yeah.
But life is not like that, right?
Yeah.
For example, at this age of anyone's life, going for a vacation, if you can afford it and it's a reasonable expense,
Do it now.
should be done, because there may be a day where you have significantly more money, but maybe you're not up to it.
Also, my mother had this argument with me, and I think it was very, again, from the Russian card generation, it's very cool of her to say this when I turned 40. She's like, in your 40s and 50s, like, and she's the most like banya person you'll meet. Like, value for money is her temper. She's like, but spend the money. Because it's when you'll have the health. It's when you'll have, so if you want to buy a sari, if you want to buy jewelry, जो पहनने ओढ़ने का शौक है, जो घूमने फिरने का शौक है, she said this in Hindi पूरा.
Because this comes to a very interesting point in most Indians' journey, that we're either end of the spectrum. Either one, we are spending too much and we don't care about
we are empty to crypto people.
Exactly. There's no in between where there is a balance that I know I have to enjoy today, and I know there has to be some bit stored or invested for the future. So, both are balanced out. We have very small percentage that can enjoy today and plan for future.
I try to live a middle path. So I'm not the person who wants to eat deep fried food every meal, but I'm not the person who will never touch sugar in my life. Right? This बीच की भी जिंदगी ना अच्छी होती है. ज़्यादातर, not everything in life has to have such a sharp. It's like not everything in life is versus, like healthy food versus unhealthy. What about the middle?
I think the great takeaway in all our conversation is that we are going to have a new look at the word versus.
Versus is a bad word. Versus. We don't like versus.
We will figure out a nice, better alternative word for versus.
The anti-versus podcast.
Yes. I think we can't wrap up a chat like this without having your view, irrespective of this optimistic or very optimistic, about what you think about the present view is for generally investors in India, because there is big camps that have this ultra bullish views that we're going to be the best economy in the world. We're going to be we are actually the fastest growing, but then we will just leapfrog and everybody's going to be wealthy. The GDP is going to go up. The purchasing power is going to grow up.
See, all that stuff will happen. I mean, we didn't talk about it too much, but you're going to go from a 4 trillion to a 10 trillion economy. When that happens in most parts of the world, it's happened in US, China, Japan.
Yeah.
There's an exponential increase in market cap. All that will happen. But I think every generation has tremendous opportunity. That's why when you asked me about India, I said it's bubbling. It's bubbling with opportunity. It's bubbling with opportunity, whether to create value, whether it's through your job or through your startup. It's bubbling with opportunity to create wealth. And we're actually a very lucky generation, because I think for the next 20, 30 years, India is a special place. Probably tailing China by 15, 20 years, the US by 30 years. It's a very special place.
Do you also believe with me that sometimes we tail a certain large economy, but when we catch up and make good, and we actually go ahead of them?
No, and tailing, I don't say tailing in a bad word. I mean, I'm just saying it's a journey. It's like you're 20 years old and I'm 2 years old. It's not that I'm behind you. I was just born later, right? So our journey of economic independence is very young. We got political independence in 1947, or economic independence much later in our trajectory. So it's a different journey. I don't
because it's generally a comparison to say China was always 20 years ahead of us, because maybe they started earlier.
It is. But it's a long game. So I also believe that for India, it's not about being the world's largest economy only. I think it's a great outcome. It's about growing and uplifting citizens and giving. I believe success is when the next generation can live a better life than their previous generation. I think that to me
It's
defines
something
success.
that we so strongly believe, and that's why we believe that more needs to be heard from people like you to instill confidence and to tell people that it's okay. The journey that you take may be unique, it may be different.
Yeah,
We all don't have to do the same things that you hear people
yeah.
or you see on social media. Like we're talking so much about how social media is consumed, and that everybody wanna be because they see something on that beautiful frame that they see on their 6-inch or 4-inch screen. They want to be that person, whereas their journey could be totally different and still enjoyable and still successful.
Yeah. And I think journeys are very individual and they're all different and good. Some of this is just about getting older. I always say in Twitter, everybody's making money. On Excel, everybody's business plan is going to turn into a unicorn. On Facebook, everyone's having a vacation. And on Instagram, everyone has a happy marriage. This is the front stage of life. Backstage,
Yeah,
thoda sa alag hota hai.
Yeah, that's the thing. The reason we wanted to chat with you is we wanted to tell people the truth of the matter is very different. It's sometimes very mundane than what
Yeah.
you expect it to be. But it's those mundane, repetitive things that bring joy.
Yeah.
And whether it's making money, whether it's your health or
Well,
wealth.
people believe a mutual fund CEO's job is glamorous, right?
Well, I think it is still.
It has its glamorous days, but they're about 5-10%. But the mundane, you have to find joy in this simple task of selling an SIP every day.
But I must thank you for demystifying this and even making the mundane sound glamorous and being so honest about it. And that's the purpose of the whole podcast. That is,
Thank you.
we are not de-glamorizing it, but we are also trying to make it honest and truthful. Because eventually, the journey is about how true and honest you could be, and also could ensure the journey is. So when you have a toddler at home,
Yeah.
we are trying so many things that the mistakes that we did or the mistakes that we see other families do, and we don't want to repeat it at home, especially with toddlers this age. Uh, Chocolates, sugar, screen time.
Yeah, no screen time.
What are you saying? No screen time at home?
There no screen time so far.
They're going to think that this podcast is fake if you're saying there's no screen time at home. I think you need to share more on this.
Yeah.
Because also let us know what is the secret for no screen time at home.
No TV time, no phone time. He thinks TV is like where Mama's office is, and Mama like comes on Shark Tank on TV, and that's about it. And, like,
which is the truth, but he sees no screen time,
he's
no
never
cartoon
seen.
even.
He's never seen a cartoon.
Is there a secret, or do you beat him up?
Honestly, the secret is it's actually a lot of hard work.
Yes.
I used to be very judgy of parents who give screen time.
Mhm.
I'm not judgy. And to not do it is tremendous hard work, especially when you're taking them on a plane. Like, what else do you do with the toddlers? We carry like 10 books. And if we want to sleep, my husband will take a turn to sleep and read the books. I'll take a turn. It's
But
just,
Radhika, you're talking about plane and you still have a beautiful alternative to carry 5 or 10 books, which is great. But someone like you who's busy, who's traveling,
should we make the time?
and the most easiest excuse someone can give is I'm busy and therefore the screen is handed.
Yeah, we've never done it. We just have never done it. Like, it's such a strong conviction between both of us, and we know it's not going to last forever.
It's difficult for me to digest as you're saying it, that
I know.
how you did it without screen time.
And I find it very weird. Like, I've gone to IKEA shopping with my son and his help, and while I'm paying the bill, someone has gone to his help and said, does this mom, who's the CEO and who we know on LinkedIn, actually spend time with her kids? People actually ask my help this question.
It's quite the opposite. You're spending so much time.
Yeah,
Your son doesn't have time to be on the screen.
Yeah, we don't send him to lots of classes. So he spends 2 hours in the garden a day. He goes to school. He does everything. But
I think we have to follow up on a separate podcast of
Parenting
how
work.
to be a good parent without screen time.
Screen time, less parenting. As I said, it's just early days in the journey. He's gonna watch this podcast when he's 10 years old and be like, ha ha, I've got a YouTube. I've got a YouTube.
I got a YouTube channel maybe.
Yeah, I got a YouTube channel.
The other question that we want to ask is, I remember about 7-8 years ago when you were in this early days of setting up this industry, and I asked you why another mutual fund company when we already have so many, and you said, Santosh, we have not even scratched the tip of the barrel, and then Today, when you look at mutual fund industry at 65 lakh crore, personally,
Yeah.
my journey when we started, we were 1.5 lakh crore. And when it touched 5 lakh, we thought we were big. When it went to 10, we thought we had hit a ceiling kind of a thing. Then when it went to 20, we thought, okay, yeah, we are come close to it. Today at 65, we think it can double from here. Now, how do you see that journey play out? Because today, more people believe today at this level than when it was at
No, I think this journey for all of us is just beginning to play out.
Still?
5 crore people investing in mutual funds, 50 crore people subscribing to Amazon Prime or Zomato and all that stuff. Come on, here, just starting. I think you should have a mutual fund industry 10 times this size. You have barely 1 lakh registered MFDs in this country. That number, and only 10,000 must be active, 10, 20,000. These numbers have to be in many digits.
So, Yati, you think we both will have a sustainably long careers for both of us?
I think we're both very lucky.
Yes.
And so we better just work and build a lot of values.
Well, I'm hoping that at some time when I'm tired, I have my son by then up and running to run the business. I'm sure you must have similar plans, considering that we have such great runway for the business.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're a founder, so your son will probably run the business. I don't know what mine will do. I always imagined he would become a criminal lawyer. So I don't know.
Yeah, wherever life takes him.
Wherever the India opportunity takes him.
Yes. Radhika, thank you so much for giving us this time. I know this is a novel working day and you've got meetings before and after this, but to be in your office to shoot here in Mumbai is a rare privilege, and thank you for taking the time out. My pleasure.